Welcome to the Masterpiece Effect, where we don't just chase success, we craft it. I'm Elnaj, self-leadership alchemist, Ironman finisher, and your guide on this unconventional journey to elite performance, legacy, and self-mastery. This is not your average personal development podcast. Here, we're questioning the narratives, dismantling limitations, and redefining what it means to lead yourself, your life, and your legacy. If you're ready to move beyond high achievement into intentional creation, you're in the right place. Let's begin crafting the ultimate masterpiece, you. Hey, my gorgeous friends. If you're wondering about my silence the last few weeks, well, I have just returned from the most sensational trip to South Africa. The place that used to be home and that I haven't seen in 10 years. That's right. 10 years since I've last given my mom and dad a hug and just had coffee with them face to face instead of Zoom. Now, just to be sure, I'm ever so grateful for today's technology and the fact that I do get to Zoom my parents every single week. However, nothing beats human touch, my friend, and nothing beats actually seeing things with fresh eyes. One of the things that really stood out for me as we were driving through the streets of Johannesburg is how clean the city is after 10 years. I remember being on a mission, going out on my morning runs with a plastic bag to pick up filth and come home and throw it away because everywhere I looked, it was just a dump. Everywhere that you went smelled of refuse. It just was the most horrific stench. And it really broke down the mental ability to experience joy. You would sit in your car for hours on end in traffic. And even though you weren't maybe paying attention to things, all of this filth was surrounding you all of the time. I'm not sure exactly what changed or who changed it, but 10 years down the line, those streets are clean, and it is a real pleasure to drive from one point to another. There were lots of other little things as well that showed the improvement of the country, part of it being the upgrade of the shopping malls, even though they were a little emptier than what I would have wanted to see them. And just the friendliness of the people. You know, everywhere that I went, people were genuinely friendly, greeting you. I got so many hugs at the park run as I went to join my mom on her weekly routine. And shout out to my mom, by the way, who have somehow managed to age reverse at least 10 years of herself just by making some new choices in life. But what I really want to talk to you about today is the fact that everything exists simultaneously. And your experience of things depends on where you put your focus. Now, this was brought to light for me by the comments made by the locals, people who are living in the trenches, so to speak. And the tendency to still focus on what's wrong, what hasn't been improved, what is not to the liking. And the really interesting thing is that in the beginning, I wasn't even aware of all the things that they were highlighting again and again and again. Even though it all existed, my focus was elsewhere. And therefore, my experience was different from what other people were experiencing. As I stayed within this environment, though, my focus started getting pulled to the things that they were talking about. Human nature, baby. Human nature. And all of this is good, and all of this is okay. But I started noticing a few things. One is that Those of us who are focused on the positive, those of us who are tuned into the higher frequency, let's say, of what is in existence, really speak out about our experiences. We tend to be the quiet ones. And I think for good reason. One being, we still are in the minority. Another being, people who are focused on the negative don't quite enjoy it when we point out the opposite. In fact, I got some grumpy responses in my insistence of positivity. The masses who are still focused on what is wrong, what is lacking, what they think is not there, they are the loud ones. They are loud in their conviction and the expression of their pain, because, let's face it, pain is louder than the peace that we experience in pleasure. The thing is, if we allow ourselves to stay in the company of those who are having a negative experience for extended periods of time, it would be inhumanely disciplined to not bring your focus down. And so what we start seeing is the clouding of our beautiful experience. It starts seeping in slowly, but it does seep in. And then we have a choice to make. Do we stay in this environment because of our love for people? And do we continue to be within those conversations? Or do we honor when it's time to either change the topic of conversation, draw a respectful boundary and saying, I am no longer available to talk about this. And when it's even time to remove ourselves from said company because of love, because of our conviction, our determination, our value of holding to a higher frequency, understanding this is really the greatest gift we can give to other people, is not to get pulled down into the negativity, is to stay on the high frequency of what is already possible, what is already in existence, the beauty, the improvement, the evolution. And slowly but surely, more and more people will feel inspired to this level of living. But we have to be patient and we have to be unattached. We have to be a little selfish in our own focus so that we don't get wayward and distracted by what is wrong and what is missing and what is still of the old. So today the message is on multiple levels. I think the most important thing that I want to bring your attention to is that everything exists simultaneously. The old and the new, which was birthed from desire. And you get to decide where you're going to bring your focus, which will then ultimately dictate the experience that you're having of your life. I also want you to start paying attention to the conversations that's happening around you, that's happening with you. And without judging, without shaming, just become aware of the tone of the conversations. And then invite in discernment from yourself with regards to which conversations you engage with. Understanding we can't convince other people to change their experience, to change their values, to change their beliefs. And it's not our job to convince other people. It is our work to choose our own experience intentionally and then focus our focus. Focus our focus. Yes, focus our focus on that which is desired, on that which exists, and on that which we are bringing into existence next. This is the greatest work that we can do at this time. Now, part of this work, I've decided, is in a new container that I'm creating called the Virtuoso Collective. And I'm creating this as a professional mastermind specifically for women in business who don't want another strategy, who don't want me to teach them anything. They understand that the calibration of this space is what they desire. To be held by their peers, to brainstorm not only around their own businesses, but around the businesses of other women, thereby stimulating their creative potential and just playing the game with the women who love to play full out. So if this is a space that you're interested in, then reach out and connect to me, al@alnash.com, or have a look on the website. The Virtuoso Collective link would be on there as well. Regardless, I want you to remember today that life truly is your experience to be had. And you get to make it a masterpiece wherever you go, my friend. Have a sensational day further. I'll check in with you next week. Cheers. That's it for today's episode of The Masterpiece Effect. But your transformation doesn't stop here. If something resonated, challenged you, or sparked a new insight, I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts. Connect with me at alnash.com. And if you found value in this conversation, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because life's too short for mediocrity. Let's create a masterpiece. See you next time.